In this week's episode, we find out what made Chris say this.
We've been doing this for a long time, guys. I mean, manufacturers, get your life together. Get it together. Welcome back, folks. This is Lot Talk powered by Lotpop. I'm Chris Keene, one of your co-hosts. Joining us today, as always, the all-powerful, the almighty Peepaw, and the newly become Pops, Mr. John Leonard, Mr. Ronaldo Leonard, or excuse me, Mr. John Anderson and Mr. Ronaldo Leonard. We are here.
Right.
Man,
I'll be related to you anytime.
Hey,
I'll be related to you anytime, Ronaldo.
You're
Yes,
already
sir.
my brother from another mother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll take it.
See, we refer to y'all as twins.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Yeah, we call y'all twins. Which one of y'all is going to be
That's
Danny DeVito, though?
I knew that was coming. Anytime I hear twins, I go to Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
being a twin myself, yeah,
Exactly.
I'd always tell Raphael he was from the shallow end of the gene pool.
Dude, that's wrong. That is absolutely wrong.
Nothing like brotherly love, you know.
But hey, we're here now. We're on episode 25. We're going to go to the grocery store today. We're going to help some folks with some different thoughts and ideas. If you don't know what the grocery store is, that's the great place where we find some inventory. And I can't wait to dive into how you go to the grocery store and how you sit there and really, as we've done in this industry for millions of years now, turn that old chicken poop into chicken salad. But no, it's going to tie in. I mean, it's going to tie in really heavy, guys, into what we've been talking about, collectively as a whole. We're seeing some margin compression. We're seeing new car come back to life. We're seeing the market shift in many different ways with the consumer shopper index declining, but yet inventory still rolling out. I was just on the phone earlier, John and Ronaldo, with the dealer. They're a Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram dealer. And no surprise, Stellantis came in and said, oh, okay, no more. We're not going to do that incentive. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. And then all of a sudden they start seeing everything decline. Okay, just kidding. We're going to bring all that back. I'm like, come on, man. Can you everybody get your life together here? Okay, get your life together for a minute. Some of these guys act like we just been selling cars for, I don't know, 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, John. Yeah, I mean, Ronaldo, you and I both know we've been selling cars a lot longer than that, because when we sit around the office, John starts whittling some wood and starts talking about when he was selling cars to Barney Rubble, okay, and Fred Flintstone. So we've been doing this for a long time, guys. I mean, manufacturers, get your life together. Get it together. like we tell our dealers all the time at Lotpop. Work the facts, manufacturers. You got to start working the facts. And the facts are, you got a bunch of inventory out there. The Fed ain't changing rates anytime soon. And y'all are sitting there looking at your dealers going, well, why don't you sell more cars? Gee, I wonder. I mean, that could be a whole nother episode. We start talking about the OEM and the relationships. And matter of fact, that could be like an intervention, John.
Easy now.
What do you think about when you used to have to talk to your OEM?
Easy now. Easy now. There could be our podcast could go off the air unexpectedly. You got to be easy there, brother. Come on now.
We're gonna get torpedoed.
Hey, by the way, the rack on the side of Fred Flintstone's car was that for that Brontosaurus rib. That was a $9. That was a $9 option on that car back then.
I thought it was aftermarket.
No, it was an optional ad from the OEM back then. Only $9 for that Brontosaurus rib.
Did you put in a
hold that big rib?
Did you put an addendum on the sticker?
Yeah,
mark it up a little bit.
We did mark it up a little bit. Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
The OEM got mad at us though because they caught us marking it up.
But the whole neighborhood, when he drove that thing to Rock Vegas, they were jealous.
They were lit up, man. They were lit. That neighborhood lit up, brother. Where'd you get that at? I got a lot of referrals off that $9 ad.
Dude, you guys are a complete racket.
But if you go ahead and extrapolate the numbers, $9 back then
Unbelievable.
would equate to $37 trillion now. So,
That's right.
Yeah,
Hey, listen, we were
that's
making
high
it,
value.
man. We were making it. We were making it back then, brother.
I love it.
I actually had a set of. I actually afforded me a set of polished stone cups for the household, brother. The wife was happy with me.
Sweet. That was a good week, huh?
Very good week. Very good week.
Hey, honestly, guys, I'm in a great mood. I mean, heck, here in Oklahoma, we say it like this in the car business: flags are flying and people are buying. We got the blue skies, the sun's shining. We're on episode 25. We get
Great day
another
to be in our
opportunity,
industry.
Ronaldo. Oh, it's a great day. We get another opportunity here to give back to our automotive community. And
Oh, yeah.
Ronaldo,
Mhm.
how many times, because I just want to get into this, how many times have you been on a call, whether it's a fresh client of ours, or maybe you're covering for one of our performance managers, performance engineers, and they're just crying the blues? Man, Chris or Ronaldo or John, I can't get any inventory. And then
Oh,
you
yeah.
go into their inventory management tool and you looked at their missed trade report and what they appraised it for and what the next dealer is selling it for, going, you either missed that thing by 15 grand or that dealer is trying to make 15 grand worth of profit. How many times do you see that and what do you say to a dealer?
Man, I see it too often. If you see it once, you've seen it 1,000 times. It's just being a little too, how do we say it, greedy and looking at those opportunities. And it's almost like, we step over dollars to pick up dimes because we're so gross oriented. And then, then the problem that these guys are running into is just looking at the books and looking at wholesale values as opposed to what you could sell that particular unit for. We touched on it a little bit last week. Just if you go back and if you would think about all of those vehicles that you're appraising, whether it be in service drive or whether it be with the folks that are buying, look at all of those opportunities and think of it from this perspective. What would I give for this vehicle if I were at the grocery store trying to buy it in the lane with everybody else? You'll step up and give $2,500, $3,000 more on a vehicle just because you're at the auction as opposed to putting it on a vehicle that you're appraising. And so, the majority of my time when I see it, I'm just walking them back through the process, starting at step one. What do you do when you see any vehicle and how do you begin that process? And then just find out where the missteps are and where they occur. And then just painting that picture that, hey, man, because they're on your location doesn't mean that you're still not shopping for inventory at the grocery store. Use the same mentality. Be thorough, work your numbers, work your facts. But if you will look at it from that perspective, you'll win more of those trades. And then the room goes quiet and they're like, oh, never thought about it that way. Really? So it's almost like you have DoorDash. If rather than going to the store to get groceries, they start looking at that service drive or these trade opportunities at DoorDash. They're bringing the groceries to us. All you got to do is just sit back and eat.
Yeah. No, you're 100% spot on. And you said something that caught my attention. And John, I'm not going to go as old school days as the Model T or, Flint Rock, but, you know, I'll take it back to when I first got in the business in the 90s. Okay. Before we had inventory management tools and the interweb, before we had all of those things, we had an NADA book, or if you're on the West Coast, you had a blue book, you had a black book. If you're on the East Coast, you had Alps. And we would look at these cars and we would look at the book but we didn't look at the book to really determine a value. We started looking at our own data, if you will. And I don't even think we called it data back then, but we just started looking at our numbers and we started looking at it going, hey, what can I sell this car for? And if I say, okay, yeah, I can sell it for this, and oh, wait a minute, we've had a lot of special finance lately. So about the most I could probably get advanced is 115% left book. Yeah, we were kind of selling for there, but man, special finance has creeped up. We might only be able to sell it for here. Didn't we, John, back in the day, just kind of look at it like, what can I sell it for? And then back up from there?
Yeah, Chris, I'm probably going to get a lot of bad feedback today because I know there's a much more strategic way to that dealers all over the country have. I listen, I sit on other podcasts and obviously calls with our company, and then I'm on Clubhouse and listening to several Clubhouse calls, and I hear all the refined strategies, and to me it's I guess I tried to make things as simple as I could. If I wanted to sell cars, I had to have cars, right? And vehicles, and the auction wasn't always one. I didn't have the luxury of leaving the dealership as much, so back in the day, there wasn't all the online resources. So if you wanted to buy cars at the auction, you had to go to the auction. You had to physically go to the auction. I didn't have the luxury to leave the dealership for 3 or 4 or 5 hours in a day. So, just had to come up with resources on how to find inventory. And you're right. I mean, I looked at it from a retail perspective. I didn't want to lose an opportunity. If I saw a vehicle I wanted to go after it. And then, I get it in inventory, and my job is to retail the car. So that's, was it an exact science? No. Is there an exact science out there to it? No. I mean, what works for some dealers doesn't work for others, and what works in some parts of the country doesn't work for others. But I know that, one of the things that we're hearing a lot right now is just, and we're seeing a lot, right? And it, off the previous weeks here that we've been talking about this, one of the things that we've showed over the last 3 weeks is the chart that shows, the retail days to turn trending down with the shopper count trending right with the, so, and what we've alluded to is there are customers in the market, and those customers are buying cars, and they're buying them fast. They're buying them in the first 30 days. So, there is a struggle out there for dealers to try to replace that inventory. So, I really do want to get into this today on, how they should be looking at it, and also what areas, can we source inventory from? Because there's do we have to be solely dependent on the auction? And the answer to that is no, we don't. We don't have to be solely dependent on. There's a lot of areas that we can source inventory. Are we using our team at the dealership to help us source inventory? So you're spot on. We looked at it from, I remember carrying around that thick ass the yellow NADA, orange NADA book in my pocket, man. Yeah. And pull that. I ruined
slacks.
Hey, I ruined many a pant in my day climbing in a trade with that thing in my pocket and hearing a rip in my pants, right? My pocket ripped, right? Yeah.
Oh, man.
But no, we looked at it. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Go ahead, finish it. Well,
no, I'm just saying we use that book to look at it from a perspective, just like you talked about. I know I can get 100. At one time, I remember getting 130% advance from a credit union, right? I know I can get 130% advance. So I'm going to go in and look at that and go, okay, here's what I can get. And I know I'm up against another dealer up in Indianapolis, Indiana. And so I've got to be strong on this thing. So where do I go to get this thing? Because I know what I can get on it, right? I can retail it for. So,
But I need to back up, and I should have prefaced it with this. Here's the thing: inventory management tool companies. If you're listening in on this podcast today, if you're watching this podcast on YouTube or on Spotify, or again listening in on Apple, inventory management tools are a necessity in today's time. And
100%.
there are many, many, many great resources and tools as an inventory management tool out there. One of the very first ones that ever came out, okay, everybody knows Viano. I was one of the early adopters. I'm a huge raving fan. I'm a huge raging fan of VenQ. Recently, I've been working in Dealers Link. Pretty dang good tool. I've worked inside First Look or Inventory Plus, Max Digital. I've worked in all of those tools. They're really, 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 really good tools. So I'm not sitting here telling you guys, okay, that inventory management tools are dumb and that you need to, call NADA and tell them, or now JD Power is, have them send you a bunch of books again and put your bidder badge on the back. I'm not telling you that. What I'm saying is this: understanding how in my market with my people in my store, how we sell in relationship to what an inventory management tool or a book or an auction says, they can be very conflicting. Okay. But here's the next piece I want to throw out there. So inventory management tools are great. I love them. I would not operate a dealership today without one. Let me be very crystal clear.
Yeah.
You
I don't know
can't.
how you can.
You
I mean,
can't.
they make you so much more efficient. I don't know how you can operate without one.
1,000,000%. I'm not telling you that the books are bad. I'm not saying that they're inaccurate information, because they're not. You have to have the book to understand the advance that you can get at the credit unions or at the banks or at the financial institutions. You have to understand those. But now I want to throw this out there. Auctions are fantastic. I love auctions. I love the $2 hot dog and the heartburn that I get from it and walking around smelling all the gas fumes all day long. I love it. And I sincerely mean that. I thought it was a good time. I used to love the old party sales. You remember those? The old party sales? I won a TV one time and my demo was a convertible Corvette. And I'm driving back I-35 with this TV sticking out the top. Thank God the weather was nice. It was when flat screens first came out. I'm like, how in the hell am I going to get this thing back? But anyways, auctions are fantastic. So I'm not telling you that the auction is not a good resource to go pick up inventory, because it is. But here's where, in my humble opinion, we get in a trick bag. I want to hear from you guys on this. And I want to hear from the listeners. Drop your comments in here right below, but hear me close. If we've looked at a piece of inventory and you sit there and say, I need the car, but then you immediately go in and start looking at what the auction values are, and you appraise your car based upon what the auction says, aren't you just setting yourself up for a wholesale mindset? Shouldn't you appraise the vehicle based upon what I can sell it for if you're going to retail it? Now, with that said, if you're looking at the rig and based upon all the data that you have at your fingertips, hey, man, that's a great vehicle. Yeah, it's got 30,000 miles. Yeah, it's black in color. Yeah, it's got a roof. Yeah, it's this. Yeah, it's that. Man, that's a great vehicle. But it's just not me. Then yes, would I look at it from a wholesale disposition? Do I need to understand how they're transacting at the auctions? Yes, because I'm going to be sending it there. But if I'm looking at it to retail it, what does the auction value matter? Ronaldo, what's your thought? And then John, I want to hear yours.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, if retail is the business we're in, that should be our focus. What can I sell it for? What have I sold it for, in the past? The
Mm-hmm.
market data that guys are using, it can misguide you. But if you are really dialed into your specific numbers, what does this vehicle do in my store, in my market, with the people that I have on my team? Whatever my team is capable of doing with that particular vehicle, that should be driving our decisions. And so I think you hit it right on the head. And I got it. I think Mr. Anderson might agree with that, but let's find out.
Paul,
Oh yeah.
what do you think?
No, yeah, you guys are spot on. I don't have a whole lot to add. I mean, I got to look at things from a retail perspective, right? Because listen, in my opinion, if I'm looking at it any other way, if I'm really being stringent and saying, okay, here's what these things are going for on the wholesale side, then I'm going to miss opportunities.
Every time.
A lot of what we do in life is taking risk, and I'm not telling anybody out there to a lot of these guys, right? A lot of these dealerships are group dealerships. They're managed by big companies, right? And so I understand they have metrics that they're being measured and watched, and they have jobs riding on this. So I'm not telling anybody to risk their career, but what I am saying is when the constant message out there is that there's not enough inventory and I can't find enough inventory, then if you find yourself telling yourself that, then what you should be telling yourself is, I need to find other ways and I need to be more aggressive, because the inventory is there. I mean, we track that as a company. So the new car inventory obviously has been dropping somewhat because of the new car sales, the talks of tariffs, right? And so people have been moving themselves forward to buy new car inventory. And as a result of that, there's been a lot of trades come into the market. And when you look at the used car trends, used cars are trending up on third party. You're seeing those go up, right? So there's inventory out there available. But I've got to make sure. A lot of the times what we talk about on this podcast comes down to refining small things. It's the small tweaks that make the big difference, right? And so if I'm not bringing in enough inventory, then I've got to look at it from a micro perspective and analyze everything. What are areas that we can find inventory at, right? What are some of those areas? What is my appraisal process? We talked about this before going on this pod a couple of days ago, guys. How many times do we see in the inventory management tool that the dealer has a set it and forget it in their when they're setting up, their auction fees, when they're setting up their what they feel like they're going to spend in service, right? A lot of times I'll see $2,000 or $2,500 in there, and I see it on it's just stuck in there and it's never adjusted. So, are we saying to ourselves, are we catching this and saying, I'm going to literally spend the same money on a 2024 unit that I would spend on a 2011 unit? Well, no, we're not in service. No, we wouldn't do that, right? And so we have to be. It's those small fine-tune adjustments that we have to make sure that we're doing, so that we put ourselves in a position to win that vehicle to retail, right? So, I mean, you guys are spot on. We just have to look at it from retail opportunities, right? We can't forfeit. If I'm a dealer that has sold 40 units in the last 15 days, and I look at my 0 to 15 day inventory, and I only have 18 units in that 0 to 15 day inventory, I've got a problem.
I'm in trouble.
I'm in trouble.
Yep.
Right. So I've got it all hands on deck, right? I've got to look at everything that I'm doing because I have to have inventory, right? What I've said in this podcast before, the dealer, I don't know any dealer to be upset if you sold every car on the lot, and I'll still stand behind that. but also on that same respect, right? That dealer's going to expect you to find inventory to replace it with, right? Every one of those spots on the lot has to turn dollars, right? Every one of those, if I got an empty spot on that lot, I'll miss an opportunity to turn dollars and get an ROI from my dealer. So yeah. So you guys are spot on.
Back up just a little bit, John, because you glazed across it a little bit. You kind of started pounding on it, and we need to pound on this a little bit more to that point of, man, we sell some cars. New car business has picked up. Yes, we are getting some trades. No, we're not getting some trades. Yes, we are getting trades, but I still got to buy some more inventory because I'm not getting the trades. We're missing out on those, whatever. But you touched on the recon piece. Number one, and this, again, 2 weeks ago, we got some feedback from some dealers. Talk about, you act like we're a bunch of idiots and you're a hard ass. Okay, well, here it comes. If you're appraising a car and you've gotten your inventory management tool, that recon piece, and it's defaulted to $2,000, $2,500, $3,000, whatever the case, and I'm appraising a car, and I got $3,000 defaulted in there, and I got $750 worth of transport, and I got $200 worth of auction fees put in there, but I don't win the trade. And then I looked at a report that shows me, oh my gosh, you missed all these trades, and my competitor right down the road or across the street won it. Did you ever consider that when you looked at that data inside your inventory management tool, that you backed up too much on the trade because you had the auction fees in there and you didn't take them out? You had your recon in there at $3,000 as a 23 model with 22,000 miles on it, and you were saying it needs $3,000 worth of work. Well, if you're appraising cars and you don't know or have a pretty dang good idea that tires are going to cost this, a windshield's that, PDR's this. Oh, yeah, I'll take it back to the Ford days when the 5.4 tick was around. If you didn't stick your head in the fender well and you heard that tick, if you didn't know that was going to cost you $2,600, if you don't know what a lot of these general recon costs are, either stop appraising cars because you're costing yourself and the dealership money, or get yourself a little bit more educated on it. There's a ton of resources. Number one, walk back to your service department. There's one resource. But if you can't look at a car and sit there and say, yeah, it's going to cost me $1,750 ballpark, and then look at all the data that you have inside your DMS, and in most inventory management tools, and most you guys have a recon tool to say, hey, on 22 models, on average, I'm spending this. On large pickup trucks, on average, I'm spending that. If you're not doing that, there's one of the ingredients of why you're missing trades, and you are having to go over to the auction, but you don't want to go to the auction because you're looking at it going, my God, everything's going $1,000, $2,000 above MMR. How am I supposed to make any money? Books ain't caught up with it. I get that. But you're still missing business on your trade-ins or your street purchases or your service drive because we're not taking the time to sharpen our knife, hone in on our craft, and appraise these cars the correct way, be more efficient with it, and then more importantly, looking at the car going, yep, that's a retail piece. And then defaulting back to books and auction values and this and that, instead of saying, hey, this car here, I'm going to sell it around 97, 98%. Own it anywhere back of that. You're winning.
I'm gonna throw a little wrench in the spoked wheel. How about
Come on, man. I don't want to crack my head.
No, hey, listen, I got to add one more thing in there. And I'm interested on you. I already know what you guys think, but I'm interested. I want to hear you pontificate on it.
Here it comes. Here it comes.
Oh shit!
How about adding the pack number into your appraisal?
Oh, come on, John. You didn't have to go there. You did not. Yeah, just a bit outside. Oh my gosh.
It was coming.
You didn't have to go there, John. Why'd you go there?
I mean, seriously.
Come on,
and again, I know that might push back a little bit, but seriously, think about it, right? What does pack have to do with me winning a trade or not? Right? The pack's always going to be there, right? It's not, we pack our cars $500. We pack our cars $1,000. I've had dealers that pack their cars $2,000. That pack number is not going to go away. So putting it in an appraisal, other than costing me the trade, I'm just curious. And listen, if you're listening or watching, please, give me, again, do I feel like I'm the be all, know all? No, not anywhere close. But from my perspective, when I see that, I just question, what is that? Listen, all what Chris just said and Ronaldo have been talking about, and what we've talked about up to this point, what I'd ask you to ask yourself is, by me not doing some of those things and making sure that my recon is right, if I'm putting pack in or not, I guess I would ask this question that I hear our CEO ask dealers a lot, right? He asks it from the bucket management standpoint, right? When they're pricing their inventory. So by me not adjusting or making those tweaks or considering these things, am I helping myself win more trades, or am I costing myself? Am I helping, or am I hurting myself to win more trades? And that's the ultimate question that I would ask yourself. And here's another thing I would add to this, and then I'll defer to you guys. If I find myself having to steal trades because I have to counter my cost to market that I'm looking at because I'm buying too many cars at the auction, so I find that I'm finding myself when we get a trade that I got to try everything I can to try to steal a trade, then you probably need to evaluate what you're doing, right? Because you're having to buy too many cars at the sale because you don't have a realistic approach to my appraisal process to win more trades, so I can offset that when the auction prices are high, right? And they've been high. I mean, guys, I don't remember since COVID, when have they dropped? Have they? Maybe hey, listen, my brontosaurus carrying butt my memory may not remember when auction prices dropped since COVID, but I don't remember for any length of time.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Ronaldo, take that for a minute. Appraising cars with your pack in there. I mean, honestly, let's think about that for a minute. The pack's the pack. It is what it is. We used to call our controller Pac-Man,
Right.
because he'd be the one delivering the message. Hey boys, we're gonna put it happened during the last economic recession we were in back in 08, 9, 10. All of a sudden, one day, he walks down, goes, "All right, guys, there's gonna be a fuel pack." I said, "What?" "We got a fuel pack. We packed every car another $25 to offset the fuel prices."
Yeah.
So, but now John's right. Ronaldo, what's your take on that, man? We appraise a car's based on pack. How many deals do you think we're losing because of that?
Plenty. I mean, when does pack come into the equation? When a vehicle's sold.
Right.
Right. That's the only time that it's actually a thing. It's a concept prior to that.
Right.
But you can't sell it if you don't appraise it properly and put a number on it that you and that customer can agree on. So, I mean, It's Fugazi. Pardon me, Chris. I had
I
to
love
steal
that.
your. I had to
I
steal
love
that.
it. Steal
like-
it. Use it.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you keep in the back of your mind, but it's not going to dictate, what you can get that vehicle for. So why use it? Why use it?
Yeah, I mean, some of these things here, guys, is the pack, the recon not being correct, having transport in there on a vehicle you're trading for. Auction costs in there on a vehicle you trade for, man. I know this sounds crazy, but we see it each and every day. So I really want to reference that we're just not mysteriously coming up with these things that we think y'all are doing, and it's not everybody. So let me preface it with that. But because we sit there and have hundreds of thousands of calls with dealers month in, month out, and when they're crying about, hey, we are having a hard time getting vehicles. Okay, well, here, let's go look at your last 10 appraisals. Okay, wait a minute. Where's this vehicle coming from? Oh, we're trading for it. That's a trade in? Yeah. And it's a 23 model. Is it really going to cost you $3,000 to recon it? What you got we got, what do you got $650 with auction fees in here for? Why do you got transport in here? Now, if you back all that out, how much did you miss the trade by? Oh, we're missing the trade by $4,000. Okay, well, right here, I'm 3,500 closer. Do you think you could have bumped a nickel? And as a matter of fact, you weren't missing it. Even with that in there, you weren't missing it by that much.
All right.
Because you're selling at 98%, and you got your vehicle sitting here. It just drives me bananas.
The devil is in the details.
Good Lord of mercy.
Hey, Chris, Ronaldo, I know because we've discussed it, right? I know you guys had recently what stimulated this conversation that we wanted to bring this today is you guys recently had a call with a dealer, right? And you guys walked through a process with them because they were asking about that, right? And you guys went through a detailed process with them. So, I know that sometimes we get a little bit, we go on, hammering dealers about things because, and again, it's, guys, don't take it personal. It's just stuff we see, right? That we feel like, man, that's our responsibility, right? That's what these calls, really, that's what this podcast was supposed to be about, is things that we're seeing. We work with hundreds of dealers, right? So things that we're seeing across the country, in the West Coast, in the mid center of the country, on the East Coast, right? Things that we're seeing, that's part of this podcast. We want to bring those out there and uncover them and talk about them to dealers because we really do want to try to help. So why don't you guys, kind of walk through the process that you shared with the dealer, for some of these dealers that are listening or watching and thinking, okay, well, you guys are talking about all the mistakes we make. Well, what's the process that we should go through? Why don't you guys share what you shared with the dealer? And I also want to talk about, some of the areas that dealers can source inventory from. And again, I'm not hammering auctions, but we know that the pricing's up. So are there areas that we can source inventory from that we have an opportunity to save ourselves from that high cost of inventory? So, yeah.
So actually, John, those two actually kind of go together. And then Ronaldo, because you're the one who had started that conversation with them. So I really want you to unpack that part of it. But here's the thing. When it comes to the auctions, guys, if you look at it, not, oh my gosh, everything's high at the auction. And that's a fact. I agree with you 1,000,000%. Everything is high at the auction. I agree with that. But if you look at the auction like this, look at your data. I had this conversation with a large auto group 2 days ago. If I'm looking at the auction and I know it's high, but I need inventory and I haven't won any trades, that's a whole separate subject. We already unpacked part of it, but we're going to unpack a little bit more in a second with Ronaldo. If I go into it with the mindset of I'm going to buy these cars at the auction and I ain't going to make no money on them. No kidding. It's high at the auction. You're not going to make any money on it. So let's just take a degree of separation. Let's think about this a little bit differently. Now, in our software, we're able to look in this particular dealer out of this group, 72% of their inventory was comprised of trades. So the next question, in your used car department, and listeners, you can do the same thing because you got these numbers in front of you. You have to dig a little, but you got them. If I know 72% of my inventory is comprised of trades, if I know in my used car department, I have a 65% finance penetration in used cars, and let's be a conservative. What that tells me right there is two things. If I buy a late model vehicle from the auction that I'm going to pay too much for, I have a 72% probability of capturing a trade, and I have a 65% probability of obtaining financing. And if I'm running on my per finance deal in my used car department, $2,500, $3,000, whatever your number is, wouldn't you want to buy that vehicle instead of your neighbor down the street that's going to do the same thing? Wouldn't you want to buy that to get the market share, to give yourself a shot at the trade, to pick up, for the dealer principals, GMs that may be listening in, to pick up additional internal rate there with a potential of 75% that you get to keep on your internal F&I income. And then now you got the trade to wash, rinse, repeat in your service department, obtain financing. Auction cars aren't bad. It just depends on how, A, you look at them, and B, how you're going to take that vehicle to market from day one. That's where that comes in. Ronaldo, tying that together along with that dealer we were talking to out on the East Coast. Yeah, I wish I should have asked him if we could use their name because, I mean, they're really inquisitive and really great people.
Oh,
And
yeah. Absolutely.
really, really fantastic people. Sponges. They're awesome. And they've been around for a long time, guys. So the listeners, don't think it's some rookie GM and rookie GSM and used car manager. These guys been in the car business for a long time. They just sat there and said, uncle. They cried uncle and said, hey, what we're doing is not working. Naldo, help us out. So take that conversation and unpack it.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so let me back something up that you just said. We were talking about going to the auction and buying vehicles, and that situation is not entirely bad. I think that a lot of people get behind that 8 ball of just being short-sighted, thinking about this one particular vehicle, as opposed to everything that it's going to bring into the dealership. And you went through, all the different revenue streams that are inside of the dealership, but I want to take it a little step further. How does that trade generate other vehicles all the way down the line? You get a trade on a trade and a trade and on the other trade. And something that I was kind of fascinated by this past weekend, they had the Kentucky Derby, and they had, I can't remember how many horses they had running in that race, but every last one of them was tied back to Secretariat.
Absolutely.
And so if you go into the auction and buy a vehicle that you need, if you're not tracking what's generated off of that purchase, not just, one or two vehicles down, but all the way through that stock number. We used to do it on stock numbers. So we would just add that letter on the end to let you know exactly where that stream started. But
how excited were you when you're like, oh man,
what's the deepest you went?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say is when you got down there and you're looking at it going, man, this is P1000D E. I mean, wow.
I think the last one that I actually saw, it came down to a letter M, and It originated
That's awesome,
off of a truck that we traded in from 4-6's ranch. So, and
That's awesome.
that's another story.
Think about how that
entirely.
grew.
Yeah,
Think about the
you bring
customer
in a
tree
truck.
that grew too.
Yeah, you bring in a truck that's got a horse bites on it, and you think, that ain't gonna be a whole lot of money on that one. But you go back and track, and you're like, ooh, well, I'll sign up for more of those. Of those.
But Dalton, to your point there, when you get to that last one, 9 out of 10 times it's a wholesale piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. I trade for it. I trade for it right.
Yeah.
And now if I build me a little wholesale money up and I got the next new car deal that comes in or used car deal or something on an age unit, and I got to step all over myself and give way too much money for that next trade in, I'm okay with it because to your point, I went from Secretariat all the way down to a yearling, and I've got the bandwidth and I've got the margin to be able to do that because I kept just stacking and stacking and stacking. Who cares if the last one's a wholesale piece? Make it worth it.
Yeah,
Good.
absolutely. So to your point, in that conversation that you brought up, we're looking at a particular dealer. He says, "Hey, man, the majority of the stuff that I'm looking at, they're all wholesale pieces." And so then we go back into recent, trade appraisals, and you and your infinite wisdom says, "Hey, man, just pick one, and we'll just kind of walk through it, see what we're looking at." So this guy, he pulled one out, and it happened. Let's see, I'm thinking off the top of my head. I don't remember the year, but it was a town and country van. And you simply ask him, he's like, "Did you take it in?" And he goes, "Well, what do you think about it?" He's like, "Well," started looking through the numbers, and it's like, "Okay, so why would you not take this vehicle in?" "Well, we got a $4,000 shop bill to get it lot ready." And so you're gonna punt it over a $4,000 shop bill. Well, yeah,
Hell yeah.
I don't want to spend that much money in the shop. Okay, well, let's dig into it, and I'll tell you exactly why you need to spend that money in the shop. First of all, that's an additional revenue stream inside the dealership. Okay, but we're gonna put that over there for just a second. And then started looking at, what does this vehicle sell for? And let's see, I think they put maybe 2,500 in it, 3,500. We go in, look at what he had recently sold vehicles in that particular segment. And this happened to have been a segment where he needed to add inventory, small vans. He had a lot of, he had sold them on average in 27 days and sold at 98%, if I remember correctly. So we look at the numbers, we figured 10 and a half, 10 and a nickel, maybe 11 is what we could sell it for. You put 2,500 in it. You could spend $4,000 in the shop. That puts you, I hate to do math in public, but that puts you like 6,500 in it, and you can turn around and sell it for 11. And so we're like, so is this something we should add to inventory? Well, yeah, when you look at it that way, it's like, this is the way we need you to look at it. This is the way we need you to look. And then we took it a step further, and we looked at the leads that he had inside of the inventory. We went back, saw that he had sold one in the last 2 weeks, but he had 8 leads on the vehicle that he just previously sold, which was a year older and had more miles than the one that he was appraising. And I was like, dude, there's a vehicle right there. You got about $5,000 in markup in it, and you got 8-9 people that you can call today to sell it to, because they've already raised their hand and said, I want a small minivan that's in that $12,000 range. And so it's just, when you look at it that way, it makes a lot of sense.
That's a success story.
Let's look. It is. Yeah. But I mean, it just goes to the fact that we started out with. If you're not thinking about these things with the goal of getting a retail customer, and backing into it, and then taking
Mhm.
all of it and working the facts. WTF, working the facts. It will make so much. Everything becomes a lot clearer. What is it? If you change the things you look at, the things you look at change. That's a perfect example. And so I'd be willing to bet that we don't have a problem finding vehicles. We're just not looking
Mhm.
the right. Not looking the right place. And then you know, the options as far as where you can find and source these vehicles. I mean, how many times have we asked a dealer if they're giving an appraisal on every vehicle that comes through the shop? Well,
Yep.
yeah, that's a good idea. I just don't have anybody to do it. It's like, wait a minute. Who's servicing your people that come in the shop? Who are they meeting with? They all talk to a service advisor, right? Well, yeah, they don't know anything about appraising vehicles. I said, well, who does? Don't you have appointments set up in the shop? You know when they're coming in. You know what they're bringing in. Come on, man.
Mhm.
Give up about 30 minutes of your Facebook time on your phone, and and put together appraisals for the vehicles that are coming in the next day.
Hang tags are a really cool way to do that, man. If you don't have enough, if you don't want to post somebody on the service drive that's going to talk to your customer, a really easy way to do that is get hang tags to hang on that rear view mirror after that. And like you said, Ronaldo, you have the appraiser. They know the appointment's coming in, appraise the vehicle,
Mhm.
fill out the hang tag, give it to the give it to the service drive, and then when that car is done, you know, really confrontational way to do it is just hang it in the, hey, we need inventory, we'd love to have your car, here's what we'll get. And right when they sit in the car, it's right on the back of the hang tag. So if you're having
Absolutely.
trouble
John,
facilitating that, yeah.
take that a step farther though. Think about this. Oh man, I got my car at the auction and I got auction fee, transport, PSI. It's in your shop and you ain't paying for PSI. It's it's
100%.
it's already okay, but your hang tag, think about this. The mass majority of the dealers, listen closely. If you're watching, see the passion on my face about this because it is so simplistic. The mass majority of you dealers are using some form of an acquisition tool that is customer facing.
Right.
Your company you're using. Okay. And I'm going to call some of them out. AccuTrade, KBB ICO, Trade Pending. You got these companies, get a QR code, hang it on that hang tag.
Yep.
Sell me your car. What do you think? Since COVID, people have been very accustomed to taking their phone, walk it in. Oh, there's QR code. Scan it. Why? Because that was the only way that we could order a beer and a taco at a restaurant because they didn't have freaking menus out. Okay.
Yeah.
Everything was done on a QR code. Put a hang tag in there with the QR code linking directly back to your customer facing acquisition tool that will give them train writing dollars right then and capture the information and send it to you. Create engagement. Easiest way to freaking do it right there. Okay, fine. You're limited on resources of people. You're people poor. Okay, I get it. But you're not people poor enough to sit there to Ronaldo's point. Because taking a step farther, a lot of you guys have service drive tools or service appointment tools that either feed into your CRM or feed into your inventory management tool. And at the click of a button, you can see I got 35 appointments coming in on the drive tomorrow. And in some of the inventory management tools, you click another button and it starts an appraisal for you, which then turns around and links to the third party tool that you're utilizing to give them an offer for their car. Click print and go put it in the car. But we can't buy cars. We can't get cars and all that.
Yeah. Well, and you know, another part, and I made a joke about managers, you know, getting off of Facebook to spend some time and put some appraisals together. Last vehicle I purchased, I bought off a Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah.
There's so many people out there, selling vehicles because they don't want to go to the dealership and go through that. Remember those silent walk around? What happened here? What
Oh,
happened here? What happened here? But a lot of
how many people died in that wreck?
yeah. But a lot of folks are just offering their vehicles up on Facebook. I mean, that's another great place that you can source that inventory as opposed to going to the auction.
That's a great transition, Ronaldo. Guys, I know we're getting down to it, but let's talk about some areas for sourcing, because I think we talked about the service drive, right? How to approach that. Facebook Marketplace, right? Listen, one thing I want to bring up is, are you involving your entire dealership staff in the sourcing process? If you're not, you need to do that, right? How much? Think about it. Guys that buy a lot of cars at the sale, look at it. I know you know. What's it cost you to get a car to your dealership from the sale? By the time you have auction fees, if there's transportation, right? Take a realistic look at it. What's it cost you to bring a car in from the sale? Okay. And here's the other thing. Do you really have an opportunity to really look at that car the right way when you're buying it at the sale until you get it back to the store? Right. Right. So if I take those dollars that I'm spending to buy auction cars, right, and I'm not saying go completely away from the auction, you're going to have to supplement, right? We deal with some dealers that have 90% trades, right? They're bigger dealers. There are some out there, but it's a small percentage. So a lot of you do have to rely on the auction. So I'm not saying go completely away from the auction, but what I am saying is, you can offset some of that. Yes, I can. And so involve your entire staff, your lot porters, your office guys and gals, right? Listen, they're out there in the community. They're at restaurants. They're driving around the community. So, if they're talking about that and they bring a car to the service drive so that you can inspect it through the service department, and you decide to buy that car, pay them.
Oh, that's exactly what I was going to say, John.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Right.
If you're going to sit there, we've looked at the number before, and I've looked at it with many dealers, John, that buy a lot of cars at the auction. When you take the buy fee, the transportation cost, the PSI, when you take just those three pieces right in there, you're average $1,500, period of the paragraph, okay? Just to get the car to the auction. So if you're going to spend $1,500, hell, if you're going to spend $1,000, reduce it to the ridiculous. You buy a car at the auction, it's only going to cost you $1,000. Oh, and then on top of that, some dealers, not only do they have those three fees, they have a buyer they're paying to go out and do this for them, and then they're paying them a buy fee. So if you take that into consideration, why wouldn't you take care of your house? And if I can promise you this, you just said it, John, your service advisors, your office staff, your porters, they're out in public, they're out to dinner or hanging out at a friend's house, and they find out that your accounts payable person works over at the dealership. Oh man, I've been thinking about selling my car. Oh yeah, bring it by. We'll probably look at it. Or think about this. They hear that conversation now. Oh, you work over at the Dodge store? Yeah, I've been thinking about selling my car. Hey, as a matter of fact, and if you're incentivizing them and they hear, I'm thinking about selling my car, and they know they're going to be incentivized, I would rather pay, and this is going to sound outlandish and crazy, but I would rather pay my operator, the receptionist, $500 versus go to the auction and spend $1,500.
Not crazy. It's not crazy. And I'm gonna add on top of that, Chris. I would pay them on the spot. And I know comptrollers are throwing stuff at. If there's any comptrollers listening, they're throwing stuff at the screen right now. But
get out of my paper cash.
Yeah, if they bring a car to the service drive and we inspect it and it's a car we decide we're going to buy and we buy it, because look, you're going to drive that activity more and more and more through. Look, if If I've got 50 employees at my dealership, I got a war room, an army of 50 people out there trying to help source inventory. Guess what else happens? They're driving down the road and they see a car sitting out on the corner or in a lot in the driveway for sale. They're not going to drive past that car. They're going to stop and they're going to get the information off that car. They're going to bring it back. They're going to call and they're going to try to get that vehicle into the dealership to get it looked at to see if we can buy it. I'll tell you something else too. You get, I did this at the store. So when you have salespeople that are having a little bit of an off week and we're coming up to payroll, and they know they got to make a paycheck, guess what they're going to start doing? They're going to start digging on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, and they're going to start bringing things in. So what you create is you've got an army of buyers out there, right? It's controlled because they have to come through the service department, inspect it, and they got to go through whoever's doing the appraisals at the dealership. So it's not like it's a loose process. We're controlling it, but they're bringing that stuff to the store, right? And so I get those opportunities because I've involved my entire staff into it. And why, like you said, Chris, why wouldn't you want to take care of your own family, right? Why wouldn't you want to take care of your own family?
100%. Man, I'd go on for another 2 hours talking about acquisition. So let's recap this. Go ahead.
Well, wait a minute, real quick. I want to get one other thing in. Dealers, Google yourself. If you don't have, if when you Google yourself, if you don't have something on your Google page that says "sell us your car," please change that. Don't make a customer click on your website to come to your website and then try to find a tab up top to realize that you're interested in buying cars. Put that thing right on. Put that when they organically pull you up and you're on that first page of Google. Put in there. I mean, look at CarMax, look at Carvana. They have a spot in there that says we get a value on your car. We buy cars, right? Get that out there so that customers can real quickly just, I want to sell my car, right? Because again, I'm going to remind everybody, you got two transactions going on now. Customers are trying to sell their car, and at the same time, they're trying to buy a car, and they're doing that at different places. So make sure that customers see that you want inventory. You're buying inventory. Put it on your web page, on your web page, right? When they open up, when they come to my site, if they come to my site, I want that right up front. I want your vehicle, right?
That there, so, John. I got to cut in here because you have to hear something, because I haven't cascaded this message out to everybody because I just learned it. And Brett, I know we got to wrap, but everybody has to hear this. John is 100% correct. You Google your dealership, you Google it, and it shows up, and having the sell us your car in there, okay? You used to be able to do that. Google changed their whole platform and their algorithm and everything else. It's now based upon, and I'm going to use the wrong terminology, but you guys understand what I'm saying here. It's based upon the amount of activity from your website that is relevant. So I'm going to use all the wrong phrases here, and the point being is, if people are not on your website clicking into that sell me your car, it doesn't have relevancy, so Google doesn't see it necessary to put that there. So the last part of what John talked about, it needs to be on the front of your website. If you have an acquisition challenge and you're burning new cars like crazy, you're selling them, you're doing a good job there, you got your day supply down, why have a bunch of new car stuff on the homepage of your website? Why would you not have, if you have an acquisition problem, the link to sell your car to the dealership? Everywhere on every portion of your website, the button, that link needs to be prominent. Everywhere on your website. You need people clicking into that and utilizing it to keep relevancy. So when you do show up, it is going to sit there and show the consumer public that not only can they buy a car from you, they can sell you their car. The reason why CarMax or Carvana, they're always showing up there at the top, and why that's always showing up is because that's what they have built their model off of. is sell me your car, sell me your car, sell me your car. You can do the same thing. You just got to be strategic in your website. Sorry, John, to cut you off there, buddy.
No, you're good, man. That's good stuff. So, I know, the storytelling has to be a major part of it now with Google, in order to get relevance, right? So no, I'm glad you corrected that. So the point being is, if you need inventory, let everybody scream it from the rooftop, right?
Yep.
Get in your inventory management tool and find your competitive set and look for dealers that have aged inventory and reach out to them. The worst thing they can tell you is no, I'm not selling it to you. That's the worst thing that could happen. But you might get somebody that says yes. And then if you're a dealer that's always looking for inventory, that guy might at the end of every month send you a list of vehicles he needs to get rid of. So you get to pick from that, and you're not competing against 25 other dealers with their hand in the air. This guy's sending you, he knows you're always looking for inventory. So he needs to try to get rid of some inventory. So he's reaching out to you. I mean, you might develop that kind of relationship. So,
Absolutely.
if I need inventory, scream it from the rooftops. Everybody needs to know. Everybody needs to know.
Yep.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
No.
Ronaldo, recap it. Any final thoughts before I give a quick recap and we wrap?
I'm just going to slide in. The last thing I wanted to say was institute those credit unions that we do so much business with. How many times you go to the credit union and they got vehicles sitting outside with for sale signs?
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, opportunities are out there. You got to have your head on a swivel, and you also got to convey the message that that's something that you also do. You don't just sell cars; you buy cars too.
1,000,000%. So, very quick recap here. Number one, lottalkpodcast.com. You can reach out to John. You can reach out to Ronaldo. You can reach out to myself. With that being said, we're now, I can't believe this, but we're worldwide. We got folks in Europe listening in on the podcast. Thank you for that. Our fellow Europeans, we love it. Thank you. We appreciate it.
You're kicking a shout out to Michael in Denmark.
Yes, Michael in Denmark. Thank you for tuning in. But hit the website up, or lottalkpodcast.com. Hit that up. Here's why. Because we want to hear your feedback. This is a pretty important topic, as all of them are. But this one, it's the redundant one we keep hearing about. As you're appraising your cars, start looking at those. Great suggestion for you. What can I sell it for? Not what is it bringing at the auctions? Not what is the book value? What is this? What's that? No. What can I sell the car for? That information is inside your DMS. It's inside your CRM. It's inside your inventory management tool. If you need help with that, give us a call. John threw it out there last week. We will dump your inventory into our system, let it trend out, and we'll show you exactly how you've been selling. We'll do that at no charge. So give us a call. We'll help you with that. And then lastly, with the acquisitions, the auction is a great place to definitely get the late model inventory to become trade bait to help produce multiple streams of income throughout your dealership. Do not walk away from the auctions. Use them, but use them wisely and have a degree of change in your thought process of why you're buying that auction unit and what the future that you're doing with your inventory by buying that auction piece. It is a positive move. I'd love to unpack that more with you. Give myself, John Anderson, Ronaldo Leonard, call, text, email, drop us, a note at the bottom of the screen here. However you want to communicate with us, reach out. We got a lot of resources to help you out. On behalf of our Lotpop family, on behalf of Mr. John Anderson, Mr. Ronaldo Leonard, we thank you guys so much for tuning in. Catch us next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Much success to you guys. Take care.